Welcome back, my fellow night terrors, to a place where the veil between our world and the ethereal is thin, almost transparent. A place where shadows whisper secrets they shouldn't know, and things from your worst nightmares stir in the dark. Tonight, we delve deep into the cold embrace of the unknown, exploring 3 true tales of horror that are sure to chill you to your very core. So, dim the lights, turn up the volume, and prepare yourself, because these stories are not for the faint of heart. Consider this your only warning, because once you step into the shadows with us, there's no turning back. Are you ready to face the darkness? Deep in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, nestled amongst towering pines and shrouded in an almost perpetual mist, sat a dilapidated cabin. It stood as a testament to time and hardship, its wooden walls aged and warped, the windows like vacant eyes staring out into the unforgiving wilderness. Locals would tell you the cabin was cursed, haunted by the spirits of a family who met a gruesome end within its decaying walls. Our story begins with a group of friends, teenagers brimming with the sense of invincibility that only youth can provide. They were drawn to the cabin, as so many are, by the thrill of the unknown, the desire to tempt fate in a place where shadows danced and whispers seemed to emanate from the very walls. They arrived on a Friday night, the setting sun casting long, eerie shadows through the trees. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and pine needles, and a palpable sense of dread hung heavy in the air. Ignoring the prickling sensation on the backs of their necks, they unloaded the car, their laughter echoing through the stillness of the woods, oblivious to the darkness that awaited them. The first night was marked by nervous excitement. They built a fire in the old stone fireplace, its flickering light doing little to penetrate the oppressive darkness that clung to the corners of the cabin. They told stories and jokes, their laughter a fragile shield against the growing unease that permeated the air. But as the night wore on and the fire began to die down, strange things began to happen. They heard whispers, soft and indistinct, seeming to slither from the very walls themselves. Floorboards creaked under unseen footsteps, and the temperature in the cabin plummeted, sending a bone-chilling cold that seeped into their very bones. One of the teenagers, a girl named Sarah, started seeing things in the shadows, fleeting glimpses of figures lurking just beyond the edge of the firelight. They were gone as quickly as they appeared, but their presence, their malevolence, lingered in the air like the smell of decay. Fear, primal and consuming, began to grip the group. They huddled closer to the dying fire, their eyes darting nervously around the cabin, their senses on high alert. They tried to rationalize the strange occurrences, to explain away the whispers and the shadows, but deep down, a chilling certainty began to dawn on them. They were not alone. As the night stretched on, the paranormal activity intensified. Objects began to move on their own, propelled by unseen hands. The furniture scraped against the wooden floor, the sound like nails on a chalkboard, setting their teeth on edge. A heavy feeling pressed down on their chests, making it difficult to breathe, as if the very air had turned thick and oppressive. Desperate to escape the nightmare unfolding around them, the friends decided to leave the cabin. But as they stumbled out into the pre-dawn light, they realized that something was terribly wrong. The once familiar path that led to the main road had vanished, replaced by an endless expanse of dense, unforgiving wilderness. They were lost, trapped in a nightmare with no escape. The cabin loomed behind them, its dark silhouette a menacing presence against the pale light of dawn. The haunted cabin claimed them, as it had claimed so many before, their souls forever trapped within its decaying walls, their fate a chilling reminder to those who dared to venture into the heart of darkness. Our next tale takes us to the desolate stretch of highway that cuts through the Nevada desert, a ribbon of asphalt that shimmers under the relentless desert sun. They call it the loneliest road in America, and for good reason. It's a place where the silence is broken only by the occasional passing truck and the mournful cry of the wind, a place where the line between reality and illusion blurs under the scorching desert sun. It was on this unforgiving stretch of highway that a young man named David encountered something he couldn't explain, something that would haunt his dreams, long after the desert sands had faded from his memory. David was driving across country, his beat-up old Chevy pickup truck his only companion. He was heading west, chasing a dream, or perhaps running from something he couldn't outrun, even on the open road. Whatever his reasons, he found himself on Highway 50 as the sun began its final descent, painting the sky in hues of orange, purple, and blood red. He had been driving for hours, the monotony of the endless highway broken only by the occasional tumbleweed that skittered across the road, driven by the relentless wind. The sun was a burning orb in the sky, casting long shadows that stretched and danced, playing tricks on his tired eyes. As the last rays of sunlight faded and darkness began to creep across the desert, David noticed a figure standing by the side of the road, silhouetted against the dying light. It was a woman, her thumb outstretched in the universal sign of a hitchhiker. Hesitation tugged at David's mind. He had heard the stories, whispered warnings about picking up strangers on this lonely stretch of highway. But something about the woman's solitary figure, the vulnerability of her stance in the face of the vast, unforgiving desert, tugged at his heart. He pulled over, his truck kicking up a cloud of dust that hung in the air long after he had come to a stop. As the woman approached the truck, David could see that she was young, her face framed by long, dark hair. She was dressed in a simple white dress that seemed to glow faintly in the gathering darkness.
Thank you for stopping. My car broke down a few miles back. I've been walking for hours.
No problem, David replied, feeling a strange sense of unease settle over him, despite the woman's pleasant demeanor.
Where are you headed?
West, she said, a wistful smile touching her lips. Just like you. As they drove deeper into the desert night, the woman who introduced herself as Sarah told David about her life. She spoke of lost love, of dreams shattered, and of a longing for a place she could never go back to. Her words were laced with a deep melancholy, a sense of yearning that resonated within David's own heart. As she spoke, David found himself drawn to her, mesmerized by her beauty and the aura of sadness that clung to her like a shroud. He felt a connection with her, a sense of kinship that he couldn't explain. Miles turned into hours, the only sound the hum of the engine and Sarah's soft voice, weaving tales that both captivated and disturbed David. He had met a ghost, a phantom hitchhiker on the loneliest road in America, and the memory of her, her sadness, her beauty, and her ultimate disappearance would stay with him long after the desert sands had faded from his rearview mirror. Our tale takes us to an antique shop where echoes of the past linger, clinging to the objects like dust. In these forgotten corners, darkness often finds a foothold. Meet Emily, an aspiring artist with a passion for vintage and antique items. She loved browsing antique shops, her imagination running wild with the stories these objects could tell. One rainy afternoon, Emily stumbled upon a small, unassuming antique shop. The shop window was filled with tarnished silverware, faded photographs, and antique dolls with vacant eyes. Intrigued, Emily stepped inside. The air was thick with the scent of dust and old paper, broken only by the ticking of a grandfather clock. Behind the counter sat an elderly woman, her eyes piercing blue. "Can I help you, dear?" the woman asked, her voice raspy with age. "I'm just browsing," Emily replied, drawn to the shelves of antique dolls. Their porcelain faces frozen in expressions of joy or sorrow, their glass eyes staring blankly. Emily noticed a doll that stood out, a porcelain doll dressed in a tattered Victorian gown, its eyes faded to a pale, milky white. The doll's expression was one of pure malice. Emily felt an inexplicable pull towards the doll. Against her better judgment, she picked it up. "She's a beauty, isn't she?" the shopkeeper said, startling Emily. Emily turned to find the old woman standing uncomfortably close. "She's interesting," Emily replied, trying to ignore the shiver down her spine. "Her name is Amelia, but most call her the Cursed Doll." Emily's grip tightened on the doll. "Cursed?" she asked. "They say she's possessed by the spirit of a young girl who died tragically. Some say she's responsible for misfortunes that befall her owners." Emily should have walked away, but something compelled her. "I'll take her," Emily said. The shopkeeper smiled unsettlingly. "Very well, dear, but don't say I didn't warn you." Emily took the doll home, placing it on a shelf in her bedroom. At first, nothing happened, but soon strange events began to plague Emily's life. Objects moved on their own. Emily heard whispers when she was alone. As the disturbances intensified, Emily had vivid nightmares. She dreamt of a young girl with a burning rage. Fear began to creep into Emily's heart. She tried to find a rational explanation, but a chilling certainty dawned on her. The doll, Amelia, was responsible. And there you have it, my fellow night terrors, 3 chilling tales of the supernatural that are sure to keep you up at night. Remember, the darkness is always listening, always watching, and sometimes the things that go bump in the night are all too real. If you enjoyed tonight's descent into darkness, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. And until next time, my fellow creatures of the night, sweet dreams, or should I say nightmares.